Welcome to Life Spirits Paranormal. I am Franklin.
And I am Devin.
That is your name.
Yeah.
And today we're taking a little bit of a detour from our normal podcasting. We're going to discuss not ghosts, not Satan, not Led Zeppelin. We're talking about parallel universes. And we're just going to jump right in here. So, for anyone in the audience who doesn't know, a parallel universe is a theoretical universe that exists beyond our own that has slight or massive changes than our own universe. And that concept is expanded in media, all over. It's not a new concept. In fact, a lot of fiction, while it doesn't directly address it, would basically be, you could argue, a parallel universe. The show The Twilight Zone was almost exclusively that, just parallel universes. And so I feel the first question is, do you believe that there are parallel universes?
I feel like there's a chance that they're out there. Because what we do is it sort of goes back to, I guess you can call it deja vu,
Right.
but I feel like...
I don't want to get to deja vu.
Well, yeah, I don't want to either, but I feel like it sort of goes back to that because I feel like I already did something beforehand, and I feel like there could be something out there
That you've done before.
Yeah.
It's kind of...
It's sort of
I see where you're coming from, yeah. And my standpoint is, I do believe they exist, but I don't believe that there's any connection that I have to them or ever will have with a parallel universe. I think they just exist. And in some way, yeah, I believe there's a parallel Franklin discussing the same thing with a parallel Devin, but the difference is, I don't know, some change, but, at the same time, I believe there's countless parallel universes where there is no parallel Franklin at all, or parallel Devin discussing any podcast, or living and are either dead or never existed.
Now you say a parallel Franklin and a parallel Devin, or Big D.
Big D, yeah. Yep, that's...
But you say those things. Do you actually think that that parallel Franklin or whatever actually looks like you?
I subscribe to the belief that there is potentially infinite parallel universes. So in some, yeah, probably a parallel Franklin that looks the exact same has experienced every moment that I have until this moment. But the one difference is there's an assassin waiting outside to kill me when I finish this podcast in that parallel universe. Whereas if this gets uploaded, I likely am not killed by said assassin. But no, that's the whole concept that's so intriguing to me is anything could have happened. Anything, So everything could be the exact same except for one specific moment, whether it happens now or it happens in a couple minutes when I get killed by that assassin walking outside. So yeah, I mean, in a scientific field, parallel universes are pretty, as for the things considered, quote, paranormal, are by far the most, believed because of evidence that supports they could exist.
Right.
And the lack of evidence supporting that it couldn't exist, with a lot of paranormal things to scientists, if there's no evidence, it's very hard to say
that it does exist.
That it does. Well, it's impossible. Like with science, it has to be 100%. Otherwise, it's not.
Or there has to be at least some evidence
to
back up.
Yeah, and if there's no evidence and it's taken upon by either faith or witness, just eye accounts from people that aren't scientists, even if they are scientists, the general community doesn't agree with it. But parallel universe is one of those issues where there's a lot of backing behind, but then some people disagree, on a lot of topics of them. And that's what this podcast today is about, is kind of unwrapping this whole topic.
Like a gift, like a present.
Like a present that you get to open on YouTube for free every week on Life Spirits Paranormal YouTube channel.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Okay. So, I don't know. Where do you want to start on this one?
Well, I was going to go back to what you were saying about how there's scientific stuff to back up this claim. What scientist stuff? Or
okay.
What stuff have we done to sort of back up this?
In fields of physics, the concept of the universe is still something that's relatively recent in science, as in maybe 70 to 100 years. The idea of the Big Bang Theory there still is a question of what came before the Big Bang Theory. And in some scientists' estimations, that it was another universe that ended in a big crunch, where all the gravity of the universe and all its mass came colliding together into a singularity, then exploded again, and creates another universe. By that estimation, there would be no parallel universes existing simultaneously, but over the course of trillions and trillions of years, our universe has only existed for, I believe, around 14 billion, which is not a inconceivable number to the human mind. You can wrap your head around 14 billion years.
Right.
But if that cycle, and some people estimate it could exist for another, whether it be 14 or potentially trillions of years, nobody knows. This is just a theory. But in that estimate, it's cyclical. A universe exists where maybe a parallel Franklin and Devin were discussing this trillions of years ago in some universe that happened to be exactly like our own. Now, on the other end, where the parallel term really comes in, is that they exist at the same time. That our universe is a bubble in a giant mesh of other universes that just can't access each other. As in, if you were at the edge of this perceived universe, space could be expanding so fast, faster than light, and you can't travel faster than light due to the famous E=mc², where you would need infinite energy to travel faster than light, which is by definition impossible. So, by that estimate, with the parallel universe being the whole universe is a blanket, and to get from this point on the blanket to the other point is impossible because this is moving so quickly that nothing could get past that. And space is effectively infinite at that point, and by any amount of calculations, if space is infinite, there has to be infinite planets and infinite chances that you could exist. That's the other. And then on the other front, some people just solely believe that our universe is one of many, completely disregarded. There's no way to ever access another one, even on the same plane. Like, I hate to use the word dimension because that's not. Dimension describes just an axis of space or time, but it's in sort of a way it is. It's on another field that can't be accessed because it's not in our same spatial or time dimension. That's the whole scientific reasoning around parallel universes. Now, on the specifics of each of those, you could go and there is thousands of hours of videos and content at your disposal on this grand internet. So
that is true. But what we sort of have said already was that there could be a same person, like me and you. It could be the same, maybe doing the same things. But mostly what I hear is when people do talk about parallel universes, I do hear them talk about, say, well, there is like the same person of me, but then they also have like this theory or this question, it's sort of like a joking thing, but what if it is real? Like they say, like, well, I might be doing this other job
right
in my other parallel universe. I mean, like, we're doing this right now, but what if we
in some parallel universe we are bowling right now? Like, that's
like doing something completely not related at all.
And that, like, it's funny because the reason this is such an intriguing idea is that is such the smallest estimation. Like, when scientists discuss parallel universes, they often talk about how the rules of the universe itself aren't even the same. So in some parallel universes, not only do you not exist, Earth doesn't exist, the solar system doesn't exist, planets don't exist, and it's some completely other realm that you can't even imagine. But at the same time, in other parallel universes, which is a theory of infinite parallel universes, yes, there is some where instead we're just going to McDonald's, or we're going bowling right now instead of doing this podcast. As with anyone listening to this, you have a different job, you did make the sports team, you're a famous like in some parallel universe, you're a famous rock star, In some parallel universes, you are the frontman for Nickelback. And then some people could say, well, that doesn't make them necessarily you. Again, if it's infinite universes, you can make whatever rules you want because the word infinite literally means infinite.
Anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, in some universes, you were killed and were brought back to life by magic, or you can do anything with that. Literally anything.
With an infinite.
Yeah. Time in some universes, time could run backwards.
So would that mean that we would become an old person and then go back into the womb?
Yeah. But like, that's the thing is, there's so much. There could be two time dimensions where time both runs backwards and forwards at the same time.
How would that work?
Exactly. Like, you couldn't wrap your mind around it because your mind only works in one time dimension. Just like the idea that there's a fourth spatial dimension. You have an x-axis, a y-axis, and a z-axis.
Yeah, which is 4D.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which you do learn this in math class.
Well, yeah, but there's three, the three dimensions and then the fourth spatial dimension.
Yeah, which is the X, Y, and Z.
Then the other spatial dimension,
So there's 5?
No, there doesn't have, that's in a parallel universe, there could be.
Okay. Well, that goes also to the
and then you have to,
infinite.
Yeah, and then people think, what is that next spatial dimension? And by definition, you can't imagine it because it's your brain only exists in this many dimensions. You can't just create another dimension in your mind.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the point with parallel universes. And scientifically, there is a lot of evidence to support it. At the same time, those scientists might just be making it up to get more grant money. You could say whatever you want about that. But there is evidence.
Okay. Now, I was going to ask you this, but is black holes related to, or could they be related to, parallel universes? Like a sort of like a portal or doorway in getting into the other side, now, I guess you can say it.
Actually, it's possible. And the reason is because black holes...
Because sort of before you begin your point there, have you seen the movie Interstellar?
I have.
I mean, the ending to that movie was sort of like...
The way they...
basically film, what I'm saying.
That film did portray a lot of things in an interesting way, except black holes, all they do is, a star dies, and it's condensed into such a small amount of space, of matter, but there's so much mass that everything gets sucked into it, therefore creating more mass in this small space of matter. Now, technically, you could argue that when you go inside a black hole, what actually does happen is you die. No matter what, no matter what, you die because your body has infinite length and it's infinitely thin. You're dead no matter what. You can't function if your body is the length of space itself. That's the thing.
Right.
So, yeah, it's possible that if you were somehow alive when you entered this black hole, maybe it creates another universe itself that exists only within that black hole and dies when that black hole is done. That's a theory some scientists have, is that there is tiny universes that pop up within our own universe, and if there were intelligence within that, they would perceive it as a vast amount of time, billions of years is going on. And then it just fizzles away. But to us, they may have only existed for 10 minutes, but to them it could have been trillions of years. And some people argue our universe is just a tiny bubble universe in a much bigger universe where they think we only live for 10 minutes, and in reality to us, it's been 16 billion years.
Yeah. Going back to the movie Interstellar, we sort of talked about the ending.
Right.
You said why it could be plausible and could not be plausible. But do you think, sort of saying something similar to the ending, except not the black hole part, when he basically moves the books within the other universe, do you think
that's
why? Not really why, but do you think that this theory, I guess, could be
that?
Why things like why people say that, oh, I got this sign from beyond.
Here's the thing. I feel like that was very thematic. I do, just because.
So you think that it was only done for the movie theater?
Yeah, because the rest of the film was done actually very well. Gravity does manipulate time, and
Yes.
realistically, if they were in a scenario that somehow they could, if there was that much gravity and they're outside on a planet, they'd be dead. It doesn't, but it's possible that time could move that quickly just by a lot of gravity. But in that instance of where he's in like another universe and he's pushing a book over, no. And the reason for that is because you gotta think the rules of the universe are so grand and so inconceivable to humans. Why would he somehow just go back to a important moment in his like life that really meant like that did bother me even when I was watching the movie. I was like, okay.
Right, but it sort of explains how it happened. I mean,
Yeah.
in the
rules of the movie, it works, but in the rules of the universe.
But since we're talking about parallel universes, the more you think about that scene, and then you think about, okay, he was in the room at the same time that the book fell.
Right.
So basically, he was in two places at once.
Yes, but parallel universes don't imply you're ever at two places at once. Because
but was it really him? Like, was it really his parallel universe person?
That whole part, what was it? He was supposed to be like in another spatial dimension.
Yeah, something like that. Like, he went through like a black hole or something. And then he got to like this weird part of the universe.
The only way you could explain that part is he goes in a black hole and he accesses a part of time and space that... Wait, no. That wasn't it? Was I not wrong? I always interpreted the ending as this, that in the future, humans that sect of human civilization advances so much, they kind of construct it so that he goes back in time. That's what I always interpreted it as, is that he went back...
With that scene? Or,
yeah.
Or just the ending of the movie?
No, that scene. That those future humans, millions or billions of years in the future would have enough technology to allow him to make contact with himself by manipulating space and time. Granted, that's a huge fucking stretch, but...
Right. But he wasn't able to come back to Earth because if he did, he would die from age. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the interesting thing about time is time travel... If you want to just say that movie had anything to do with time travel, other than that explicit scene, then time travel exists now, because if they've had clocks that are on rockets that just travel incredibly fast. The faster you travel, it manipulates space-time. And there's a difference between a clock on Earth and a clock that's on a rocket that's going 17,000 miles an hour, because time isn't a very concrete thing. It's very much just tied to the universe, so it can change. He could easily be in a rocket,
right,
or whatever happened there. Infinite mass infinitely changes time or whatever. I thought the assumption was he made it to the end of the universe, because when he went in a black hole, time advanced so much with infinite gravity that those future humans could just give him the technology to go back. That was my assumption.
Okay.
Because you gotta think, if there was infinite gravity, there'd be infinite time. So billions of years would have passed, rather than hundreds or thousands, and billions of years would be enough time for them to give him his life, So
you're saying that he could possibly be 1 billion years old, in that sense?
Yes. Like, in his mind, only seconds has passed. But then again, normally, if you go into a black hole, your perception would stretch out. Like, if you were to fall into a black hole and not die, time would just stop.
Yeah, but where would you go?
You wouldn't go anywhere, because time would, to you, like, if you're the person falling in the black hole, time would stop. There's no passage of time, which would be a horrifying death, because you are effectively stuck in that. Like, to everyone else, time passes as normally, you know? Like, but to you as a person, you would just be frozen.
So, would you be able to move?
You won't be able to think. If time... Like, your neurons couldn't move messages. So
basically, your whole body couldn't function. If you were alive through the black hole experience,
Not only would your body not be able to function, it would just stop. Time would stop. So you couldn't...
let's not say that you die.
You wouldn't die immediately. If, for some reason you don't die, but you gotta think, there's so much gravity that time has stopped. Like, there's nothing. Light can't enter your eyes, so you can't see.
Yeah, but how can time stop when it's infinite?
To you, from the perception of you.
Okay, so it's from your perspective,
Yeah,
but time is still
Yeah,
happening.
time everywhere else is happening relative to, wherever it is. So if you're watching somebody fall into this black hole
Yeah,
and
but-
you're on a ship safe, they just fell into the black hole and they're gone.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, we are saying that even in the black hole, in your perspective, from your eyes, time has stopped. Now,
Yes.
in that same black hole, is time still happening?
No, because...
But we said that it's from your perspective.
Well, that's the thing, is you're an object. By that point, you're just an object. Just like everything else entering this black hole, you're just an object. You know? Like...
So we're just the same as, a dark matter going into the black hole or something.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the perception is you can't think of yourself as a human anymore because time is so rapidly it's changing, not as in speed, like just it's not happening anymore because of that.
It's going so fast or so
slow,
that we think that it's not happening at all.
Right. And
That if you were alive in that sense.
yeah, but that's the thing, is you couldn't be alive because your brain needs neurons to work, and there wouldn't be time for one neuron to communicate with the other neuron. So you wouldn't have
So basically it would be going faster or slower than what you could possibly do within your own body.
Yeah. And I mean, that exists even on Earth if, there has been time discrepancies with even like astronauts. Very small, milliseconds. But to some people in that sense, time has it's changed. It's not what it should be. If you could somehow keep a very steady rhythm, let's take 60 beats a minute. So literally just 1 second to you, and you traveled on a rocket going light speed, somehow. We just said it's not possible, but say it's possible, or near light speed even. If you were to keep that rhythm up and you exited after 5 years, maybe 100 years could have passed, something like that. Like, I'm just giving rough estimations, but to your perception, no time has passed, or maybe 5 years has passed, but to everybody else, you've been going for 100 years.
Yeah, and that's what they said.
Yeah, that's what happened, and that was a very interesting point of the movie, because that is entirely what would happen, but the idea of a black hole and going into a black hole...
Yeah, because he does see his daughter again, right? Or his son, or something like that?
His daughter, she's like 30 years older, not because he goes into a black hole.
Yeah, but just because of the time...
Yeah. They're on a planet. They're on that planet that had...
Yeah, they had, the immense amount of gravity.
Which would have killed them. Again, there's no way they could have just been out there. Your hair would kill you. Because your hair... Yeah, your hair would weigh so much, it would kill you. If the gravity's that heavy...
But at that point, wouldn't your, arm or, your own legs would kill you?
And your blood couldn't flow. So, So, everything within you would kill you. So, I don't know. It was either way... on that whole topic of parallel universes, which I feel like we got off a bit, but still, it's fine. It's our fucking podcast.
Well, what were you gonna say before my point?
I was gonna say that's just the interesting thing about people like parallel universes and that whole idea, because it's fiction effectively. It's not literally fiction as in it's fake. It's when we think of in some alternative universe, some parallel universe, Harry Potter is real. There's magic, there's wizards, and I'm just saying that as a reference of, if there's infinite parallel universes, everything is real. Everything has happened. You have died an infinite number of times, and you've lived an infinite number of times.
So I'm Superman.
Superman did not die. You know what? That's a great point I was going to make. Not about Superman. DC has something called the multiverse, which is both Marvel and DC do have these parallel universes, and the entire comic books are based upon this idea.
This is very true.
And they just do that, in Marvel, it's Earth 616 is what they call it. Is the
616?
Yes,
that's the true.
That is the core Marvel universe.
It's very frightening.
But yeah, well, it's not 616. We're not getting back into Satan, goddammit! Okay, but on, say, DC, it's Earth 1. And, like, what they do, how they take advantage of the parallel universes is, like, Marvel says our cinematic universe, if you watch films in Marvel, they technically take place in the same multiverse as the comics. Just on this vast fictional web. And then I'm getting to a point. And then DC has the same concept of a multiverse, which is in some universes time has sped up faster than others, so it's like 20 years in the future, stuff like that. But there is a concept beyond that called the Omniverse, which includes all, not just Marvel, but Marvel and DC comics, plus everything else, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's the point I'm trying to get to, is the Omniverse beyond parallel universes, which would imply that not only is there parallel universes, there's something beyond parallel universes. Right, which is an interesting concept from even a religious perspective. Just going into that, if people imply God created the universe and everything that is, what is everything that is? Because that would imply there's something beyond the universe, and there would imply there's something beyond those parallel universes, and there's a even bigger universe. You know, it's like, that's the thing with parallel universes.
Yeah, it's like we could be a universe within even a larger universe.
Yeah. And even since I don't feel we're ever going to cover a topic like this specifically again, I do want to make one point, which is a theory, more off, that a future human civilization has created a simulation of the universe starting, and it's running to this point exactly, and they just observe to instead of, since time travel's not possible, they just observe what's going on in this universe, and so we're just a creation of this future civilization with advanced technology. Again, it's just, you know, some scientists do subscribe to this kind of stuff, but more often than not, there's no evidence. The evidence that exists to support it is like...
So there's no evidence to say that we are a simulation or a game being played.
There is.
Like Sims or something.
There is. And the only evidence is that some fields of physics the rules just don't work, or they just don't seem to have rules. And some scientists say, well, that is just because the code that this future civilization uses can't be that advanced to have everything. So there's missing data that doesn't work as it should. You know, yeah, but at the same time, it could be you just don't know. So take that as you will.
Right. Sort of going back to what I said, sort of about us possibly being a universe within a larger universe. Sort of, let's go even smaller than that. If there is a bigger universe that we are in, could we be, although to us our universe is huge, and then this other universe be even like infinity
bigger?
Yeah. Could we be so small that we are like a solar system within this bigger universe?
Very likely we wouldn't even be a solar system. If that were the case, we would likely be...
Just like a little dot?
Like atoms, essentially. You know, like, to their perception, the size of atoms, and we only exist potentially for milliseconds, if that. So, faster than a blink of an eye. But to what is them, this vast span of time is... Or to us, what is that vast span of time of billions and billions of years? It's just a short, you know, just milliseconds. Now, what people always reference this to is the fact that if the universe just instantly came to an end right here for no rhyme or reason, that would be the case. That it could just end with nothing, no explanation, you know. That would be, but of course you wouldn't know because you'd be dead. Right, like, well...
That's
dead as in it wouldn't even, there'd be no evidence to ever exist you lived at all.
So, like,
you know?
no time really happened.
Yeah, it'd be like everything never actually happened. It might as well be fictional because
Basically, I don't know if you were saying about us or about
everything.
other beings. No, like if that happened, time would be like so small that it never really happened.
Yeah. And
I mean,
nobody may have.
If you were
observed
saying
it.
like the whole 3 seconds or like 3 milliseconds.
Yeah. I
thing.
mean, that's just one. Like on another level, it could be that we're running at the same time as them. We're just smaller. It could be that we're running at a much that we've existed for trillions of years. And to us, it's just billions of years because we experience time so much slower than it is. It could be anything. It's just a reference of these possibilities do exist.
Yeah. Sort of another movie that sort of goes with this time and parallel universe topic. And sort of say if I'm wrong or something about this, but I believe the movie was Looper.
I did not. I know the concept. I didn't watch the whole movie, but
I mean, when they sort of like jump.
They just go back in time, though, don't they? They go back in time and forward in time.
Yeah, to like fix some stuff or something like that.
Now, the thing with that is that does kind of tie in.
But then if you do come in contact with yourself or something,
no,
you would have to shoot yourself or something.
Here's the thing with that. That references time travel, which I wanted to be a separate topic.
Yeah,
but I will lightly cover.
That's what I was afraid of.
I'll lightly cover it right here. Now, there is a concept called. There's an idea that if you were to time travel back in time and you came in contact with yourself, somehow some inherent level of the universe would lead to one of you dying because only one of you can exist at a time. But that's just one theory out of this whole grand scheme of have you ever heard of the have you ever heard of the grandfather paradox?
I have a little bit.
So, I'm sure most of you know what it is, but what it is a man goes back in time and he kills his grandfather before he can have children. So, your parents are never born, and thus you are never born. But then how did you go back in time to kill your grandfather if you weren't ever born? And the explanation for this, there's no 100% explanation, but some could argue time just accepts it. That it just creates a diverging time frame. Some argue it just creates another parallel universe. Some argue that if you do any action in the world, another parallel universe exists. There's a universe where I am not picking up my Mountain Dew Diet Code Red pop right now. And there's some where
That could possibly be like a...
Yeah. And there's universes where I threw it all over this expensive audio equipment and it burned...
It burned.
It killed us all.
Pop sets on fire now in some parallel universe.
Pop sets on fire. Yeah, like that's what I'm saying is this concept. I do implore that all of you go and look more into this if you have any desire to do so.
Yeah, and then give us your feedback on what you think based upon your own research.
Right. Or if you don't give a shit, tell us so we can take this into account and never discuss anything like this again. I mean. I feel like it's a good note to end on. We've gone a while. But I do want to talk to the audience. If you are listening at this point, please tell us. It does take a lot of time, energy, not so much money, but come on, for us to do these podcasts. And if you give a shit, let us know, because we're just we both have other things to do. I do a lot of YouTube work. You do a lot of
paranormal stuff.
A lot of paranormal, which we're doing right now.
Well, yeah,
but different than this, which you should also check out on Life Spirits
investigations and whatnot.
That's what I'm saying is we do other stuff. Mm-hmm. So if you give a shit, tell us. If you don't, tell us.
Yeah.
If you want to dislike it, by all means, because
either way, hit the like button or
dislike.
Hit the dislike button,
or
just comment and say that you don't like it,
or just send us hate mail. Tell you how you hate my voice and how I'm a pretentious fuck.
At this email.
Right. At this email. But on that bombshell, I can't end it on that. I can't end it on that.
And under this parallel universe.
No, I can't do that. I can't. Look, no one's gonna listen this far. I can guarantee you it. And if you are, just fucking comment. Franklin was wrong. Hashtag Franklin was wrong. I don't give a fuck. But the reason I do this is because of the award-winning, in my mind, series Top Gear. The UK, not the American shit. Not saying America is shit. But
It's a whole different topic.
we're gonna have a topic, America is shit, a big question mark. I'd get a lot of clicks, right? But no, either way, that's from Top Gear, that's the ending. Jeremy Clarkson was
the best of Top Gear ever.
the best. I mean, he may have been an asshole. He may be an asshole. I don't know. I never met him. But either
I don't
way.
know, but he made Top Gear because now they have a new show with the whole original 3 guys.
I heard it's bad, but I don't know. That was Ian telling me that.
That's Ian.
That's Ian. You guys know Ian. You guys know him.
That was Mickey before.
He was the guy who ran in here.
And we called him Mickey.
We call him Mickey. He scratched his balls on my chair. That was weird. I reckon you took that out of the podcast.
I did.
Good. Well, now they know about it anyway. On that bombshell, good night. This is Life Spirits Paranormal. I am Franklin.
And I am Big D.
God damn!